I see so many franchisees get focused on and obsessed over the wrong things, and they ignore the basics. Like the basics is what makes money.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Van Horn.
Hey, welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast. It's me today, a solo episode, and this is really going to be about lessons that I learned as a franchisee that I wish I would have learned sooner. So everything that I'm going to talk about today comes from my experience as a franchisee. Sometimes on this podcast, I'm coming at this as a buyer or a franchisor. And then today it's really as a franchisee, but I think a lot of franchisors will be able to get some help out of this to understand how franchisees think and help them think the right way, focus on the right things versus the wrong things. And really where some of this came from, I was in a mastermind session with the franchisee mastermind members about a month ago. And one of the members said, hey, I had all these territories with a couple different brands and a bunch of locations. I think it was close to 20 locations with 2 or 3 different brands. And then he said, but a number of years ago, I scaled back. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And members got really interested to kind of hear what he meant. And I think he has less than 10, used to have close to 20. And life is good. Life is much better, like better P&L, better margins, better life, better better people taking care of the things, better performing locations. And so as I was thinking about that, because he's coming to do a session in the franchisee mastermind as as a member and then also as a speaker, because I think a lot of people probably should be scaling back or should not have scaled as fast. Because when you do, you scale your problems. You have some missteps, which most of the time franchisees do, business owners do in general, entrepreneurs do in general. So this isn't just a franchisee thing. This is an entrepreneurial thing. Like you've got to test things. You've got to, not every location is going to work out perfectly like you think it will. So there's just some right way and wrong ways to do things. And he's going to be sharing that in the franchisee mastermind. By the way, if you're interested, go to scalablefranchise.com, scalable franchise, and you can learn more about that. It's $200 a month and it's month to month. But anyway, let's get back to the things that I wish I would have known earlier, even though I was told some of these things at the very beginning. First one, I remember when I bought my first franchise about 20 years ago. And I remember being in Discovery Day, going through the sales process and going to the point where I'm ready to buy. And I wanted to buy as many territories as I possibly could. Back in the day, they were financing these territories in-house. So you could buy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 of them because you could leverage financing. So it really became like if you own more territory, you've got the gold. And we used to be able to identify the kind of the value of these territories based off of what the competitors were doing, because we had access to competitors, basically some of their top line KPIs across the board. And so it's really easy to look at these territories and be like, ooh, this is a juicy one. This is going to be a top 10 in the country. Why wouldn't I want to get that one? And then obviously the to buy it to protect the territory. So from the very beginning, though, the franchisor was saying you don't need to buy everything. There's going to be opportunity to buy out existing and unopened territory 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 years down the road. And I heard it. I still didn't listen. I tried to get as much as I could, and I didn't need to. I would have done better if I hadn't grabbed so many territories. So I think that is a common mistake that I hear a lot of buyers make. And you might be like, yeah, Erik, I already learned that lesson. But have you learned it when you buy your second or third or fourth or fifth franchise opportunity? because that's when I found that it was the most challenging to be disciplined, to buy the amount of territories that I actually needed that made sense. And then I could have expanded beyond there. The other thing is when you buy, so here's what I think about territories in general. If you can buy six, buy three. And a lot of people can buy, 4, 5, or 6 territories, but three is a great spot if you can to get in there, to test the waters out, to see what you can do as a franchisee, see how the franchise system works in general, and then grow to 6 or to 9 or to 12. Because I almost guarantee it. I mean, I can 99.9% guarantee there will be opportunity to buy territory as time goes on, because I've seen it. I've seen it in some of the brands that were really hot to begin with, and then meaning they sold a bunch of territory, but they did not open up a bunch of franchise locations. So you could still get in and buy some of these unopened territories, and you're not forced under a development plan to open them up early on like you would be if you bought 6 of them right away. The other thing is, and this is where I've seen a lot of very successful multi-million dollar operations of net profit, multi-million dollar net profit franchisees buy out existing ones. They don't just start new, they buy out existing. So they, start with a handful of territories that they open up themselves, and then they start buying out existing ones. I can look back and be like, gosh, I wish I would have done that multiple times in one that I'm in right now. And then one that I was in about 5 years ago. If I would have just stuck, I had one territory of this one brand that's doing very well, but I wanted to take that and instead of doing that one and expanding one unopened, opening that, and then expanding and buying out existings, I thought, no, I want to get 12 territories of a newer brand that's unproven versus this proven one, because I can grow faster. Well, we'll just say it didn't work out very well. And these are decisions that I've made. So hopefully that helps you. Whether you're a first time buyer, I think 3 is a great spot to be if you can. It gives you kind of that ability to have expansion as you open up new ones. And then also you're not under too much pressure to open up a bunch of them at the same time. So anyway, that is kind of the first one. That is the first lesson that I learned, is you don't need to take all the territories. You don't need to have, like, the win isn't buying as much territory as you can. The win is not having more unopened territories than any other franchisee. Like, that might be a status symbol at first. It is not a status symbol at all. Like, they're like having the most amount of territories or the most amount of locations. That's not what makes you a winner. Like, it's profitability. It's the margins. It's that is and then your team, obviously. Like, I would focus on that versus just a territory grab. All right. Here's another one. And I mean, I think I've owned 7 different brands as a franchisee. I think every single time I wanted to innovate, because even in my first one, when I was like early 20s, I still wanted to innovate. I didn't know anything about franchising or really about business ownership at that level. But boy, did I have the ideas, and I wanted to make them known, and I wanted to try them versus just focusing on the things that worked for other franchisees. Because I had all the excuses of why they didn't work in my market. They didn't work for this reason, that reason, or the other. And so, because I think as I look back, I was bored. I was bored of the basics. I didn't want to master them. There was the playbook, and I kept wanting to improve on the playbook before I really understood how the playbook actually worked. Like, what is executing on that proven playbook? And so early innovation. And then, so that's as a new franchisee, new business owner, I was doing that. And then funny thing is, if you are a franchisee, and especially if you've had success as a franchisee, and I had success with multiple different brands as a franchisee or a master franchisee. So I remember going into Sola Salon Studios, and there I was like, okay, I can innovate because they're not really doing a whole lot with social media. I'd been doing a lot with social media at that time, and all these different things, and my hands were tied somewhat. And so because my hands were tied, made it even more important to me to be able to test out my ideas instead of just focusing on the things that work. Now, might have my ideas been, great and yielded some results? Absolutely. Could have been. But was I better off just focusing on those things that did work? Because there's plenty of things that did work besides having, extra social media stuff that I was wanting to do. No, I still pushed it, and I pushed it with my friend Jenny, who was the new CMO at the time, who is a very dear friend of mine, has helped me with other brands as a fractional CMO now. She's awesome, but we laugh about it because I was always wanting to do more and push it, even though there was plenty of other things that work. So, could I have innovated? There was times for me to innovate, and I did innovate with them, and some of the things that we did, they ended up taking and scaling out nationally. And some of the folks that we were able to bring in, they started to use as a whole system. So the point of it is, like, just because you can, there's not a hill that I should have died on. I should have just, said, hey, let's innovate. Let me test some things out when you're ready. In the meantime, I'm just going to go hard after the things that are actually working so I can have more top line revenue, more consistent revenue, and better margins. Like, that is the win versus trying to innovate a new thing or new idea. And not all my ideas are going to be great. Even though some of them would have been or were, not all of them would have been. So, like, why am I going to be always testing on the things that might work? I think it's important to test, but get with a group and actually test things. Don't just try them and throw spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Like, get specific about testing different things and use it as a test. But man, spend most of your time just executing and making the things better that are already working. All right, here's that was number two. Here's number three. Just obsessing over the wrong things. Maybe it's branding, or maybe it's like the perfect Facebook post, or maybe it's the perfect layout, or the perfect color of your location, or the perfect whatever it is. I see so many franchisees get focused on and obsessed over the wrong things, and they ignore the basics. Like, the basics is what makes money. So if you're always looking at the fonts, you're always looking at the right colors, you're always trying to do more online versus like what actually works in location, you're probably setting yourselves up for like a P&L that is not as great, because you all should be focused on P&Ls. Like, branding's great, having the cleanest bathrooms and whatnot, all that's great, but you need customers in the door. So don't let those things become more important than the things that actually drive revenue and keep revenue. And I think that's where a lot of people start to miss it, because it's fun. And I love marketing. I love getting out there, getting people in the door. But you need to be understanding, like, once they're in the door, once they are a customer, how do you keep that customer? And so become obsessed over customers like that. Become obsessed over marketing, and then retention and the lifetime value of a customer. It's upsells, it's whatever it is. Like, that's what you need to be obsessed with versus like, oh, I should do a rebranding project because this is looking a little old. Well, it might be looking a little old. You don't need to do a rebrand. And could you put that $10,000 that you were going to put into a rebrand, and do that for some training for your front level employees that are like face to face with customers all day long? And could that money be better utilized than a freshly painted location or studio or store or whatever it is? So just get focused on the right things. I see a lot of people, they start focusing on PR and paying a lot of money for PR, and And that is one of those kind of slippery slopes. Like, I believe in PR. I love PR. My friends have PR companies and they're fantastic. But I see a lot of people just focusing on PR because it's vanity, vanity metrics, vanity likes, vanity follow. Like, who cares how many Facebook likes you have or Instagram this or X that? It matters, like the revenue coming in, customers coming in, how long they stay your customer, and how much they're spending at your locations. That's what to be obsessed over. Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com. All right, let's look at something else. This is another thing that I, did wrong. So number 4 is like over leveraging. Having too much debt, having, spending too much money on locations. And here's what people don't think about. And you could have enough to open up 1 locations or 2 locations, but then you need to continue to, especially at solo, like this is, we would have been over leveraged if we didn't bring on a 4th partner. At first, it was 3 of us partners. We had to open up 12 locations in 5 years, $1 million a location. So that's a lot of money. And then we had to be thinking about worst case scenario. What happens if this doesn't happen? What happens if that doesn't happen? Well, some of those things started to happen. And if you're over leveraged from day one, like you have no room for error. You have no room for surprises. And as an entrepreneur, like there will be surprises. There will be things that go wrong, and you have to be ready for that. So that's why we brought on a 4th partner to be able to, 1, have more brain power and help in the business, but also to have more money. And sure enough, the lending sources dried up after, I think, the 2nd or 3rd location. And that option was no longer an option anymore for us. And so we had to scramble and get more open. And thank God there was 4 of us to be able to continue to do this. But then we had to keep opening them up, open. And until the first ones start cash flowing really strong, you're taking that money from the cash flow of your 1st and 2nd location to open up your 3rd and 4th. And then you're taking cash flow from all of those to open up 5 and 6. And so there's very little money left over, especially if you're going to continue to open up 3 or 4 a year. Like the money's going to that. You're building an asset. Yes, you are building cash flow, but the cash flow is going into expansion. So when you're building out your pro forma for like the global pro forma of how much money you're going to be able to take home, you need to think about how much money you're going to reinvest from the business into new locations versus just coming off the table into your pocket. So over leveraging, just trying to do too much too soon, but also not giving enough forethought, foresight, having foresight and put thought into fueling future growth with your current cash flow. All right. Another thing that I thought was going to be super helpful is brand name. I thought brand name is really important, because if you don't have brand name in a brand right now, maybe it's really new, and you don't have the brand recognition, you go to, into a decent market, but you're the first location there because maybe there's a bunch of them in Dallas, but there's only a handful in Denver or something like that. You're the first one. There's no brand name. It doesn't matter. Like you can't rely on brand name at all. So you are forced to uh, you know, neighborhood market, just hit the streets, more money on social media to get brand recognition there. Good thing and a bad thing, because sometimes people just rely on that brand name if they're opening up, as a second or third or fourth or fifth franchisee in a market. They think, oh, I don't need to spend as much money because the brand really will get me noticed, and that will get people coming in the doors. Like, branding helps, it opens the door, but I am a huge believer in that local marketing, neighborhood marketing, guerrilla marketing, whatever you want to call it. Like, don't rely on the brand name. Don't rely on that for people to come in, especially if you have if business isn't opening up as strongly as you want it to. And let's face it, that happens a lot in franchising. As entrepreneurs in general, business doesn't just, very rarely does it just like pop and it's just amazing and you have lines out the door and those lines just keep coming back and you just build a solid base from that first month and that carries you. Like, that's the goal, but that doesn't always happen. And a lot of that's dependent on that local franchisee. There's so many things that you are learning that first year. And it's so easy to blame the franchisor for stuff. And I say this as a franchisee wanting to blame the franchisor for different things. In reality, I just needed to look in the mirror, see what I was doing differently than what people are doing that are having success in a certain area. So what I mean is, if there is a franchisee that had a great grand opening a year ago, 6 months ago, 1 week ago, that's who I'm going to go to be like, how do I execute a grand opening that is a 10 out of 10? And let's say there's nobody else in the entire system. Out of 100 open franchisees, all of them had weak grand openings except for this one. I could care less about the 99. I only care about the one who had a great one 1 year ago, 1 week ago. It doesn't matter. That's what I focus on. I'm not thinking about the 99 that didn't have it work out well. I'm focused on the one that had it work out. I'm focused on the one that has neighborhood marketing driving in customers. I'm focused on the one that has a higher retention rate than anybody else. I'm learning retention from them. I'm learning from the one that seems to have employees that are have been with them for a while, or that are executing at a high level, or doing things that other franchisees can't get their employees to do. Maybe that's answering the phones. Maybe that is going out and visiting neighboring businesses. Whatever that is, I'm focusing on the 1 out of 100 that are executing that thing at a high level. I'm focused on the one that has amazing signage, and they, like, everybody seems to know where their location is. And it's probably not just luck. Like, it's so easy for us as franchisees to look at somebody else and be like, this is why they have this. They have a blue sign versus a red sign, or they have this. I mean, focus on the things that they're doing better than you and learn from them. I have been guilty of going and seeing who else is doing well in a brand, and just automatically thinking, oh, I do this, I do that. And it's like a checklist that I want to mentally or physically go through and check off all the things that they're doing that I am doing as well. When who cares about that? Like, that teaches me nothing. Only way to learn in a situation like that is to find out what they are doing differently or better than me. And I think it's or better that is the real big takeaway here. You probably heard me say before, early on when I was in the tax business and handing out donuts, we'd hand out 50 donuts a day, and in the morning. And I'm like, I'm handing out 50 donuts a day. I got that box checked. But here's things that just right now I remember that, like, if I would have just stopped there versus like thinking I need to figure out what they're doing differently than I'm doing, because their numbers are different than mine. So they have to be doing something different than me. And it's a humbling thing to do that. They might not, they might be new in business. They might be new in marketing, but if their numbers are better than mine, I need to learn from them. And that's exactly what I did. So I'd get on the phone, I'd go visit. What are they doing different? Well, they weren't doing 50 deliveries of donuts a day. They were doing 100 a day. And they weren't just going and leaving them at these businesses. They were engaging with one person at each business to be able to build a relationship, to be able to uh, get people in our door in the tax business one by one. Like you get them in there one by one. So if you're visiting 100 different businesses and you're bringing one person in each day from that's 100 people, and then you're building relationship with them, so they're more likely to refer people, to give out the coupons. And this is back then, so things are a bit different now in terms of what you do in those visits, but that's what it was for us. I was not doing 100. I was doing 50 because that was the minimum that needed to be done. But the people that were getting results were doing more. Of course, they always do. And then what were they doing that was more? They were visiting and engaging with the person that had, for lack of a better word, influence in that business. And then they were giving them step by step instructions on how to bring people to us. And then we made them feel, they were made to feel special by the people going in. They knew them by name now. They took notes on them. I never took notes before. I never left there thinking I should take a note on Lisa, the receptionist, whose dog was at the vet the other day, and then go in the next day to find out, how the dog is doing. Like that. That's what better looks like. That's what they were doing better than me. But it would have been so easy for me just to check it off the box. Like, okay, I've got this. I'm going to call it then 100. I'm going to 100, but I was doing it differently than them. I wasn't doing it at a level that they were doing it. So you just have to humble yourself. And again, go after the one that is getting results. Because everybody can go after the 99 that are not getting results and talk to them about why you're not getting results. Like misery loves company. And it's so easy to blame it on somebody else versus blaming it on you. And if you, and I get it. There's some franchises out there that just make it very difficult. But by far the most of these franchisors out there have people that are doing well. And I would stop spending any time, zero time with underperformers. That's what I'm telling you what I did, not what I, just think you should do. That's what I did, because there were complainers all around me. And I just didn't have, I'm like, if I'm going to listen to them, if I'm going to get involved in their communication and their text thread or Facebook group or whatever it is, like it doesn't serve me. It doesn't make me better. It's not going to help make me more money in my business. All right. And again, this is all stuff that I still give this advice, and brands that I'm involved with as a franchisee. This is the advice I give my operating partners as well. And this is what they do. Like if they didn't have this mentality, they'll never be my operating partner. I would never partner with someone that loves to talk to the underperformers. Forget it. That's a flat no. Like we will never be business partners. But if you want to be, if you are always talking to the top 10%, yeah, then you're a winner, and let's hang out with more winners. That's the truth there. All right. I think the last one I'm going to leave you with is top line obsession. And I think some franchisors can get focused on top line and forget about bottom line. And one of the reasons I don't like that is because franchisors are paid on top line. And if they're always talking about top line to franchisees without balancing in bottom line, then the tendency is for the franchisees to feel like the franchisor only cares about top line because that's how they make their money. Behind the scenes, I know that not all franchisors care just about top line. Most of the best franchisors out there are always thinking about franchisees' bottom line. And you want a franchisor that's thinking like that. And I guarantee, like, you're probably thinking, oh, my franchisor is focused on top line, and that's all they're focused on. I bet that is not true for most franchisors out there, um, because they know, the smart ones know, that franchisees have to make money and they have to have profitable locations for them to continue to go open up the third or fourth or fifth one. Now, I don't, depending on what you're taking on, it goes back to that first one. If you're taking on 6 right away, you're probably not going to reach profitability on your first one before you open up your second one, or maybe even your third one. But you have to have some of these benchmarks in place so you can see the progress that you're making. And a lot of times in the past, and now as a franchisee, we look for like the direction that we're headed and the trend that we're headed to be able to make decisions, because, doesn't have to mean that we are, making $200,000, $300,000 a location. But if we're making 50,000 this year, make 100,000 or 150,000 the next year, if we are on track for there, I feel more comfortable about getting more locations opened up. So in the past, I've seen franchisors just focus on top line. I've seen franchisees focus on top line, $1 million location, 1 million, this 10 million, whatever it is, like, and it doesn't matter. Like, that's great, but you need to look at the bottom line. You need to look at your retention. You need to look at customer lifetime value and things like that, because nothing is better than having profitable locations that continue to run more efficiently. Top line increases at a consistent rate. Bottom line is always getting better. Like, that's what makes a great franchisee, and that's what makes franchisors great. Like, the best franchisors will have a path for franchisees to do just that. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts as a franchisee. Hope you found it helpful.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.